Hello, and welcome to the 17th Annual Food Justice Summit. My name is Enrique Orozco, and I am one of the co-organizers of the summit this year. Before we start your session, I want to highlight some of the accessibility options, engagement features, and explain how to access interpretation services. Hola, y bienvenido a la 17ª Cumbre Anual de la Justicia Alimentaria de Chicago. Me llamo Enrique Orozco y soy uno de los coordinadores de la cumbre este año. Antes de empezar, quiero tomar un momento para indicar las opciones de accesibilidad, las herramientas de participación y los servicios de interpretación. Para acceder a los servicios de interpretación, fíjese al lado izquierdo de su pantalla. Al hacer clic al botón que dice Audio Captions, se abrirá una ventana. Haga clic en Select y luego elige el lenguaje de su preferencia, inglés o español. Comenzarás automáticamente a escuchar al intérprete. Para acceder a los servicios de subtítulo, elige el botón que indique CC. Se tiene que elegir una de estas opciones. Para escuchar a los presentadores, elige la opción Floor. Se puede cerrar esta ventana. Finalmente, deberás silenciar el video principal para no escuchar a los presentadores e intérpretes. Estas opciones también se pueden encontrar al lado derecho de su pantalla, bajo la pestaña que dice Interpretación. To access interpretation services, look at the left side of your screen. By clicking on the Audio Captions button, you will open a window. Click on Select and then choose which language you would like to hear, English or Spanish. You will automatically begin to hear the interpreter. To turn on closed captioning, click on the CC button. You will need to select one of these options. To hear the original speakers, select the Floor option. You may close this window. Finally, you will need to mute the main video in order to not hear the original speakers and interpreters. These features can also be found on the right side of your screen under the Interpretation tab. The platform also offers a number of visual accessibility tools. To find them, click on the profile image at the bottom of your screen, and then select Accessibility Adjustments. You can also change the language of the window through this pop-up. Under these accessibility adjustments, you can select different options to make the website easier to read. We welcome you to participate in the conversation through the chat window. Clicking again on the Chat tab on the right side will open up this screen. Select the box at the beginning to begin typing into the chat. At the end of the session, we will open for a brief question and answer portion, and you may type your questions here. Afterwards, I invite you to open the polling tab to answer a very short survey that lets our team know how well we did in planning these sessions. I hope you enjoy the 17th Annual Chicago Food Justice Summit. I will now turn it over to your speakers.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are honored that you chose to listen in on our presentation today. I'm Mandy Moody, and I am the Executive Director of Green City Market, here today with fellow members of the Chicago Farmers Market Collective to talk with you about this incredible group of market managers, farmers market leaders, and the wonderful support that we all provide to each other. So we'll first begin with some brief introductions of ourselves and of our markets, and then we'll talk with you a bit about the history of the collective and go into some lessons that we have learned and are continuing to learn every month, every day as we meet together. So again, I'm Mandy Moody. I'm the Executive Director of Green City Market. GCM has been around for over 20 years in Chicago. Our markets are primarily located in the Lincoln Park neighborhood and the West Loop neighborhood. Lincoln Park is one of our most well-known markets, and we attract anywhere from 3,000 all the way up to 10,000 people per market day throughout the season. So it's a really large market that attracts a lot of shoppers, a lot of eaters from all over the city. And focusing on neighbors right around the city itself. We have markets on Wednesdays and Saturdays at that location, and our West Loop market operates on Saturdays only. So it's a really wonderful community to be a part of. We serve about 50 different vendors, so farmers and food producers from Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And so we are really committed to uplifting the local food system, folks who are growing food sustainably, and providing access to people through various programs that the market operates. So that's a little bit about me and Green City Market. I'll kick it over to Angela to share the community she represents.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Angela Taylor. I live in the Garfield Park community on the west side, where I'm very happy to announce that we're in our 10th year this coming season. I'm so very excited about it. Never imagined that we would last, but we've been here. And we're a different type of market. All the produce that we sell at our market is grown locally by community gardeners. We do not source from big box wholesalers or large farmers. We actually grow our produce. One of the phrases that we use is we put local in local food. And that's very exciting. I'm happy to be here, be a part of this conversation today with my colleagues in this work that we're doing. I'm currently living in a food desert. And of late, we've been almost put on an island as any source of food, local or not, has become unavailable to the residents that live in our community. But because of this collective and the partners that we have, we're going to continue to move forward and have a positive impact to make sure that we're ensuring that residents of our community are able to receive some fresh and some of the freshest produce that can be made available to them. I'm going to roll this on over to you, Miss Shari, and let you talk about your wonderful work that you do.
Thanks, Angela and Mandy. So I'm the sustainability director at an economic development organization in Rogers Park, which is in the far northeast corner of the city. And our market is Glenwood Sunday Market, named cleverly for the street that it's on and the day of the week that it occurs. Um, it was actually envisioned as an economic vibrancy tool for a commercial corridor next to the CTA that people were kind of afraid of. But a bunch of volunteers, myself included, got involved, and we decided to really take the market as far as we could in this little kind of footprint that we were asked to fill. So we have about 20 to 25 vendors a season. We're on Sundays only, in the summer only. We are fortunate that we are not in a food desert, but we do have a high food insecurity rate in the community of about 35%. So from the beginning, we have been focused on food locally produced, not as local as Angela's. We have more of the kind of farm and food artisan vendors that you'd see at Green City. Um, but we've always been focused on food access. So from the beginning, we were SNAP certified by the USDA. And, in pre-COVID, we would serve maybe 60,000 people a season. Last couple of years, it's been more like 20,000. But we pride ourselves on providing matching grants for our link shoppers, as many markets are doing these days, to help those in our community that are food insecure afford more of the food that we have available at the market. So I think I'll leave it there for now and turn it back to you, Mandy.
Awesome. Thank you both for your introductions. And I see a few folks in the chat introducing yourselves as well. We'd love to hear who's in the room today. We can't see you, so if you'd like to share your name and the organization or cause you represent, we'd love to hear that as we continue on with our conversation. So now we're going to transition to talking a little bit about the history of the collective. So Sherry, out of the three of us, you are the person who has been around around since the very start. So we'd love for you to share a little bit about how did this group of independent market operators come together, and what role did you play in that?
Well, I like to say I inadvertently started the Chicago Farmers Market Collective. It started in 2018, actually, in the summer of 2018. For those of you who don't know it, the vibe of the farmers market world in Chicago had always been pretty competitive and maybe antagonistic comes to mind. And I got a kind of shy, hesitant email from the then director of the Logan Square Market asking if I was having trouble getting cars towed off of our city street, because she was. Um, Simultaneously, I got another kind of shy, I hope I'm not bothering you email from a Green City staffer who's moved on to farming. And his question was, we just got a bill for $100,000 or some insane amount from the park district to be in the facility this year. What are you hearing from the city about fees? And I thought, what the heck, we should maybe talk about this. So the three of us bravely decided to meet at a coffee shop in a undisclosed location. We had never seen each other. We did not know what we looked like. We were terrified that somebody was going to see us there. It was like we were in 6th grade or something. I don't know. It was very funny. But I remember walking around asking people, are you this person? Are you this person? Eventually we connected. And we had it was such a relief to be able to talk to each other about, even though our challenges were all different, it was just, we had this kind of core issue that we shared of trying to work together to bring this local food initiative to our city, our neighbors, our friends, and that facing these challenges, and with the different answer from every department or place that we might have turned to, was maybe something we could do something about. So we decided to get together again and invite another couple of people that we knew from the Chicago scene. And so 5 of us got together like in December. And I was looking back at my notes because we then decided we're just going to start inviting people that we know who are managers and directors out there, because we're going to get together again. And lo and behold, in March of 2019, we had 7 people come together. And one of them was a new person at DCASE with the city of Chicago in cultural affairs and special events. And it just kind of grew from there. Certainly by the end of 2019, we were getting, maybe 12, 13 people at a meeting. And then as we rounded into 2020 and started to feel the effects of the pandemic, there certainly was a burst of enthusiasm and participation. So now, as of our meeting last week, we have 36 independent markets, all of the Chicago markets, and various collaborative partners in the Illinois Department of Public Health, the Illinois Farmers Market Association, and many other organizations that and entities from the city who have visited us, like the Park District and Streets and Sand. So that's the history. And I never, you could knock me over with a feather that this has happened. And it's just been such a great blessing to work together with all of the markets and those who love markets in the city.
Yeah, I have to say, so I am so fortunate that this was created in 2018, because I came to Green City Market as a staffer in June of 2019. And I had spent my whole career in the nonprofit space, and I grew up in a rural area. My sister is a farmer by trade. So I knew the outside of the industry, but didn't know the inside of the industry. And when you pull back the curtain, there's always interesting things to learn and to experience. And so I know for me, when I first came on in June of 2019 and was hearing about this great group of people working together, I was very excited. I'm a natural collaborator just by identity. And so it really spoke to me. And then when I became the executive director of Green City Market, I started actively attending meetings. Previously, I was in a fundraising role. So again, I knew about the collective, but wasn't as actively involved. So I'll just share a bit about how I came to the collective. And then Angela, we'd love to hear from you as well. For me, the collective really served as an extension of my orientation to Green City Market. I didn't know the permitting process for markets. I had planned city events that required street closures and things like that, but it's a whole different ballgame when you're talking about the farmers market application and the ins and outs of that, and what all do I need, and what certifications and licensing do my vendors need. And as executive director, ultimately, I'm responsible for making sure that we have all of our, I's dotted and T's crossed. And so the collective really served as this safe, very welcoming space to help me understand exactly what it is I had signed up for, what the programmatic and the operational side of farmers markets were. And then since that sort of initial listening, I spent a lot of time in the beginning really just listening and popping in comments and thoughts as I thought okay, maybe I have an opinion on this, or maybe I have something to offer here. And now I've really seen just the evolution of the resources that Green City Market has in our operations run through the nonprofit structure. So we have different staffing for other programs that can provide support, for example, communications and marketing, emergency management planning, and different things like that, that some of the other smaller markets just they simply don't have the human resources to do. And so it's been really wonderful to see how it both serves for me as this wonderful orientation with somebody who came in with little experience in this direct industry. And now I see the value that Green City Market can really share and uplift the whole local food community by sharing the resources that we develop. Because there's a lot of, as you said in the history, Sherry, there's a lot of shared challenges and shared concerns over the work that we do. Angela, I would love to hear what brought you to the collective and sort of what your experience has been with our group.
Thank you so much, Mandy and Cherie. As usual, you hit on so many important points. I'm getting shout outs in the chat over here. So I want to recognize everyone that is recognizing me, and some of you all helped bring me to this work. I'm a social worker by my professional career. And when I came out of that, I wanted to do gardening, and I started growing food in my community as it was very lacking. Through that, we received funding through the Obama presidency to install community gardens in our community in Garfield Park. So, what do we do with all of these community gardens? How do we take the little baby footprints and make a big imprint in a community? And we created a garden network. And a couple of years later, we had a big bumper crop. There was so much food, and nobody had a clue to what to do with it. We just wanted to grow food. But as a good steward of the earth and a leader in the community, it needed to make a difference. So we thought we would do a Kickstarter campaign and see if we could figure out how we could do a neighborhood market, something that's a farmer's market but looks a little different because of the local in that process. Everything from and by community. When I stumbled up on trying to make sure that I was equipped mentally and knowledge wise on making sure that we have a very, very good market, something to interface to the community, I found this collective. I was so excited to be in a bucket that didn't have crabs in it. I don't know if it's turtles, Yertle the turtle, where one climbs up on the other to lift and bring up the most important thing to be of need in this community. This is how I look at this collective collaboration. I'm one voice, but in this collective with this market managers, oh my God, I'm a genius. Because if I don't have it, I got 36 or 40 other people that I can tap into and get that information that's needed to ensure that what we're wanting to do and trying to do to bring some type of security to our community can happen and happen in a successful manner. I have been so excited and I'm tooting my own horn, a wealth of knowledge now, because I'm sitting in a classroom at least once a month. I got a Rolodex with a whole bunch of people, phone numbers, and email addresses in it. That if I don't have the answer, I can find it, get it located, so I can share it with others. We're a market of not farmers, but residents that grow food. We are not, oh, when did you plant the seed? When is it harvested? What's the ratio? How many? We just want to bring some food to a place in our community that is needed. And through everything, the USDA, the state of Illinois Farmers Market Program, uh, the gardening programs around the city, CCGA, it has just been a wealth of an opportunity to be able to participate in a safe space. Don't have to be scared what you say. Ain't got to be worried about anybody stealing your idea because it's to be shared because the mission of everyone in the room is the same, and that's to secure a food program that everyone can survive from. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk, and I'm going to throw it back, I believe it's to you, Mandy.
Yeah. Angela, that's a beautiful transition to one of the points that we wanted to share with the attendees today, because some of you, if you're a market manager, you're probably in the collective, and if you're not, let us know. We'll get you looped in. But if you're not a part of the farmers market community, one of the points that we wanted to share is that what is your community? What are the other organizations doing like-minded work? And hopefully conveying to you the extreme value that pulling back our individual identities, our individual organizational missions, and looking for the commonalities in that shared vision, that shared mission, Angela, as you just said, is one of the most beautiful parts, I think, about the collective. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about that shared vision. And so I would say I'll offer from the Green City Market perspective, we want to do exactly what you're talking about, Angela, in that we want food to be available to everyone. We want local food to be available to everyone. We all saw through the pandemic. I'm sure we're all tired of talking about, right? Grocery stores were empty because there were supply chain disruptions, but our local farmers were prepared and ready to feed us. Our local community members were prepared and ready to feed us. And so we all share that vision. I'm curious, Sherry, maybe we'll kick it over to you and then back to you, Angela, on how do you see that in action with the collective, this shared vision approach and how it sort of shapes the culture of the group?
Wow. Oh man. I mean, I think it gives us, meaning us, Chicago, the opportunity to do so many of the things that we've envisioned over the course of time. I feel like I'm not really answering the question, and so forgive me for kind of throwing this into the mix, but I think in this, especially for us farmers markets, we all knew we were doing essential food um work, but we didn't actually take it to heart until we were deemed an essential business. Everybody else was darn closed, but we were open, and struggling through that together, I think, helped all of us, both our partners in the city and each other from the different communities that we work in. How are we going to take this bull by the horns? How are we going to make something happen that everybody used to think was an Instagram moment? People had started going to so many of our markets, especially on the north side. And, it was a great place to meet somebody, safe place for a Tinder meetup or something. And I'm like, okay, but don't you want to buy an apple? Like, instead of taking a picture with a flower. And so I think, kind of taking us all back down to that. What is it? It's food, man. And we need to have it to survive. And we need the people around us, whether they're like Angela's friends and neighbors who are growing their own food and then helping each other access it, or it's the farmers that we're working in the region. If we don't have that local food supply and food chain um, operational, sustainable, and um, accessible for all of us here in the city, we're up a creek without a paddle. So that's really not answering your question, I don't think. But I think that's the future that, we're making a present experience. We've got a long way to go, but I feel like we can really take a lot of steps to go much further in a very short period of time. So that's where I'm heading.
Yeah, I love that. And I'll just add the comment related to that, those early days of the pandemic. I think that it was so interesting that for our community that it took being deemed that essential operation for us to really see ourselves in that light. I think deep down we felt it and knew it, but it was, it was validated when that came out. And I think that at the same time that it was validated, right, there's still a lot of lack of clarity about how did masking requirements impact farmers markets or not. We're indoors or we're outdoors, but we've got this many people, but now we're this many people. There was so much changing so quickly, and oftentimes those policies that came out were not necessarily clearly interpretable for farmers markets, right? So we, the collective, came together and said, okay, what are you doing at your market? What are you doing at your market? We're having a really big challenge in this area with this population around mask wearing or compliance on this new policy for sanitation, whatever it was. But to be able to come together as a group and say, let's band together and say that this is not just the policy at Green City Market or at Glenwood or at Garfield Park, but this is the stance that farmers markets are taking to continue our essential operations, to keep folks as safe as possible. And doing that in community during a time that felt very isolating was so important, I think, for all of us. So Angela, on the comment of shared vision, do you have anything else that you'd want to add about that? I love what your turtle analogy, the crab versus turtle. I love that.
For me, visioning, the vision of having growth, which is where food comes from, it being sustainable to keep it moving, and the resilience. This is a resilient group. This market managers group is going to put some real roots into this work because, just like Cherie said, it takes a lot of work to host a farmer's market. It looks beautiful. The music is playing, all the fresh produce, food demos, kids running around, happy, happy, happy. But that comes with work. And to have done that work for a long time and have the sense and the feeling of it being unnoticed, it was kind of like, yeah, we still got to do it. We still got to do it. But when pandemic came along, it was like the curtain dropped. These are the real players on the field, be it basketball, football, hockey, golf. Here are the real players on the field because when nobody else was able to be there, we were there for our communities. We posted up, and a lot of my customers that came to my market during that year 20, when pandemic showed up and shut everything down, they were uncertain if we would be there. And the community came out and they showed up and they said, "We're so glad that you guys are here because it gives us hope." And in a community that has been disinvested, and to have something locally grown from itself that can weather a storm like a pandemic, big footprint in the sand. You're going to see us now. So that's where those steps of visioning, having resilience, sustainability, and to keep it moving going forward. I know I speak in a lot of analogies and accolades, but I'm an elementary type of girl. I want to hit it home. I want people to feel it and to know it and to hear the passion. Because in doing this type of work, that's what you need to have some of, because you're gonna need it. Because when you look like you're the ant at the bottom of the ant hill, you actually that queen up at the top of the hill, directing them where to go and bringing them up top. So again, I'm just happy to be here, happy to be having this conversation, happy to hear and see comments coming through the chat, and just know people are interested, and that means we're not alone. Green is green.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Let's talk a little bit. We were just talking about shared vision. I'd love to talk about shared voice. I think one of the things that folks maybe who don't know the ins and outs of the farmers market world here in Chicago is that markets operate from an organizational standpoint differently from one another. So Green City Market is a nonprofit organization. There are community organizations. There are for-profit markets. There are city markets. There's a lot of different ways that you can operate a farmer's market. Yet at the same time, we all have shared challenges. We all have common vendors. We all have common customers, and we all have common challenges. So Sherry, would you share a little bit about how have you seen the collective provide a space to sort of unify a voice with partners, with vendors, with someone outside of our community of farmers market operators?
Yeah, I would say, really hats off to our colleagues at Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events. You know, I think, in some situations, if you're in a small town and you have a farmer's market, the mayor gives you permission to use a parking lot, and, the police help you put up the barricades and things like that. But the city is huge and every place is different, as Mandy just said. And so navigating how to operate well in this huge environment was always a huge challenge. And the city had no way to really think about markets as other than special events. And so that's how DCASE, Cultural Affairs and Special Events, became our kind of go-to city department, right? Because we had to not pretend, we had to portray ourselves as a special event in order to be able to navigate through all of the other requirements to even operate in the city, as they existed. So, like, we have to do the summer sanitation festival training. Okay, we'll do it. But we have been able, I think, working together, and I mean together with DCASE and all of our markets, together, we've been able to make huge strides in just like the ease of registering markets now, um, collaborating on how we do operate, building trust around the capacity of this wild group of people ranging from all over the city to implement specific criteria when needed. I think we proved our mettle there, and I think the partnerships that we've developed with DCASE are a model for what needs to happen next. So to me, it's like, developing that same kind of relationship with all of our other city partners to clarify for the world at large that farmers markets are essential businesses that should have priority in a community. I'm convinced that this is going to provide the platform that we need for a vibrant farmers market scene throughout the city. As Angela said, we've got so many neighborhoods and food deserts, and we've got few farmers, and figuring out all these elements are going to be, I think, our next big challenge. And again, I don't think I answered your question, Mandy. So sorry.
No, I think you got there with talking about, being able to bring others to the table who we work with, and definitely shout out to Yesenia and Alyssa and so many others that attend those meetings who are and aren't farmers market operators, right? Those two people I just mentioned have very unique roles. But I think it's bringing together that idea of like, oh, you're having this problem. Yeah, I'm having a similar problem. Let's make sure we're approaching this in an efficient way, right? With those partners that we're working with, not only for the benefit of us, but for the benefit of those partners as well, to say, hey, we respect your time. We know this isn't the only thing you do. And so we want to make sure that we're coming to you with this cohesive, collective approach to say, this is how we can create a clear, efficient, equitable approach to whatever it is we're solving. And whatever it is we're solving, right? Again, it changes day to day, week to week, month to month. But it's a way that we can really unify and share a voice. Angela, what would you say as your participation in this group, how has that shared voice impacted the Garfield Park market?
It has brought us on board to being actually official. The licensing, the permitting. We were on wood chips the first 3 to 5 years. Okay, we were on top of our wood chips. Had delivered the awful activity, that we had to deal with because of the condition of the community. But it was a bold step for us to even to attempt it, and then to attempt it, and for it to be moving in such a successful direction is a part of this process. And the partners that at the table to help is not putting us in a position that we have to feel that we're competing. There's farmers market dollars, and I'm not telling nobody because I want it for me and me alone. It's enough to be shared. So if I know it, you're going to know it, and she's going to know it, and he's going to know it, so that all of us can be a part of it, because it's actually a building of a community within itself for the people that do this work in their own little communities. It helps build us up, make us stronger, and make us to be organized and efficient. I know it don't work like that at a farmer's market because I'm a part of the collective, and this is how we do it. So that's the voice that I hear at the table that I sit at, and I'm so happy you all love to hear my voice and let me rattle on and on and on and on and on and on and on some more, because it's important. Everybody voice matters. And when we can hear each other, then we can help each other. That's the most impactful thing out of this collective, is the exchange of information. Communication is a key to success of anything that anyone tries to accomplish.
I love that when we hear each other, we can help each other. That's beautiful. And I think it is really just, it so perfectly sort of sums up what the collective is, how we view our work together, and how it just strengthens and uplifts the local food community and the farmers market community. So thank you so much for all of your wonderful comments. I know we've got about 9-10 minutes left in our session. And we wanted to create space for any questions that folks who are watching this live have. If you want to pop any questions in the chat, our moderator will help feed those to us so that we can answer some questions for you. I'll keep an eye out for those here popping through. Any other lasting thoughts as we're waiting on some questions to come in? Sherry, why don't we go to you first and then.
Yeah, I don't know how many of our viewers were able to see either live or recorded the keynote from yesterday morning, but definitely, the moving like a mycelium was the theme. And I think if you didn't see it, you should. And if you did see it, you know what I'm talking about. And I think that this collective has been moving like a mycelium, and unexpectedly, we have developed a fertile ground. And so that is such a great thing. I don't know. It's really amazing. I would say also just the fact that we do have this comfort in communicating with each other, bringing new people in has been stress less. And I think that's an important part. I think when Mandy and I were chatting about what were some of the things that we wanted to be sure to bring up, the collective as an orientation for people who are taking on this work unexpectedly, finding the many moving parts. We can absorb that and help each other through that transition. There's a lot of churn in farmers market leadership. So, the people that were at that initial conversation back in 2018, they're all gone. I mean,
Not you.
Not me, but they've all left and gone on to other things. And I think it's exhausting work. It's exhausting, thankless work that people just assume it's Brigadoon. It just shows up. Nobody had to think about it, plan it, do anything. Just happens. And, we're all back in the back room over here driving ourselves to distraction to make it happen. So I think we care for each other. We can bring in new people and have them learn what they need to learn quickly and know that they're not hanging out on a thread by themselves. And I think, what a great model. So like whatever you are out there in virtual land are working on, just do the same thing. You can't be the only person who has a blue phone. Like get all the blue phone people together and make a collective.
Yeah. Your comment too makes me think, and I'm so curious to watch this unfold. I feel like because my start to the farmers market community included the collective, I am very committed to this work, to Green City Market, to being in this environment. And I definitely credit the collective for welcome me into this space in a way that I'm like, yeah, this is a place where I can find joy and create joy with one another, for myself, and and vent right when it's not joyful. We were like, oh my gosh, I just there's so many things throughout the pandemic where we were like, how just coming together. So I really appreciate that. We've got a question here from Rosie. So it says, we had the wonderful opportunity to work with local vendors and farmers in filling in the gap between follow-up care and resources for many patients, families in food deserts. Can you say you saw more collaboration between local food and healthcare? I have some comments that I can share on this, but Sherry and Angela, do you have anything that you'd like to kick us off with?
I would say in my community, with the rapid response due to the COVID pandemic, yeah, everybody is at the table now, having conversations and trying to figure out how do we shore up, especially communities like the one that I live in, to make sure that there is enough food available so that our babies and our seniors all of us are able to eat. So yes, there I've seen that plug go in that socket and connect itself. My thoughts may be different from others in regards to the method that they go about it. I'm a community focused person. Don't decide what I need without asking me. That's the only concern that I have. But Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles are not here. People can see where need is, and there is a need there. My eyes can't see everything. So I'm going to support where I know there's a need, and having food security in communities of need and beyond is a real thing. And that local food and healthcare has that connection right now in my community. So, yes to that question. And I think I went the long way around.
No, I love it. I would add that GCM is working on a really interesting partnership right now with Swedish Hospital up here on the north side to run a curbside pickup program where folks can order through our online platform. They can come pick up their food, and then we operate our link matching, so our SNAP food benefit program at this curbside location. If you're not aware, you cannot process link online if you're a farmer's market. So folks like Walmart can, Sam's Club can. It's 2022. Why we can't is very much a mystery to all of us, but it's something we're working on because everybody deserves to have access to food in whatever way they need it. Some folks are homebound. Some folks don't have access to transportation. Some folks work schedules that don't allow them to go to the farmers market. And so through this program, we are finding a sort of interim solution in that we're working with the Food Connections department at Swedish to help identify folks who are facing food insecurity, who are also there because they are facing health issues, and making sure that they're aware of this program, in addition to food pantry and food bank programs that the hospital runs and that the community runs. But there's more to do. There's so much more to do. And I would also say that I think if you are in the fortunate position to not be facing food insecurity yourself, I would call on you to become active, to learn more about the barriers that folks face and how you can actively get involved in making a difference there. So if it is shopping your local farmers market to make sure that those farmers can, some are so generous in donating food. If it's purchasing food from farmers to contribute to food banks, right? There's so many different ways. If it's making donations to organizations doing this work, there's a lot of ways that you can help out. Wonderful. I'm going to move over, Sherry, to Bob Benison has a question for us. Are your markets seeing many new farmers, especially new young farmers, seeking to become vendors? Sherry, do you want to take that one?
Hi, Bob. Glad you're here. And yeah, great question. And I think you know the answer, but thanks for teeing us up so beautifully. Yeah, there's always a lot of new young farmers looking to become vendors. And then the reality of being a new young farmer with no land and no property and no way to buy it and no way to get money to do it crops up, and you give it up. So I think that's another area that we, as a whole group, I mean, I'm talking CIFPAC and all of our partner organizations in the food access community, need to put in some work on making farming, a sustainable lifestyle choice and profession. I mean, we just don't have enough farms, and those that start are dewy-eyed and wonderful human beings who deserve to be able to make it what they do with their lives. And we summarily squash them into corners that they can't get out of. And we have the land that is available at an affordable price will take years to become viable agricultural land. So I like to call it job security. And of course, we will always have new vendors. We have some ideas about how we can help make becoming a vendor at a farmer's market a simpler and more affordable opportunity for new farms. But I also want to find a way to have so many of the new farms that we've hosted over the years that have given it up to either come back or find a way to avoid that fate in the future. Not to end on a downer note, but I used to be a teacher. It's homework.
That's right. I think
let's all get to it.
that's right. And I think just to kind of sum things up, because I know we're right here at time. That's the beauty of the collective, right? We see this, we know this, we can share experiences about what we see happening with our vendors and our farmers. And we can come together and say, all right, what are y'all doing to support your farmers? What are you hearing from the folks who are like, I can't come back? And how are we having those conversations on an ongoing basis so we can do what we can do right now? And not wait for the solution to be perfect, because it's never going to be perfect, but that we come together in community and be solutions oriented, and just, bravely say, hey, things aren't great. Help, right? I think that's one of the beautiful things about the collective, is that we are there to answer that call. We're there to lift one another up on particularly hard days. We're there to celebrate one another when exciting things happen. And it's just the beginning. I mean, it's incredible to think that this was only begun in 2018. The bulk of this group has really, we've trauma bonded through the pandemic, right? And so I think that we're in this for the long haul. So, Sherry, Angela, thank you so much for this incredible conversation. Folks who are listening, we hope you really enjoyed the conversation. We hope to see many of you at all of our various farmers markets as seasons gear back up here in the spring. And we're just so grateful to have your eyes and ears on the work that we're doing. So thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mandy.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Angela.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Shameen,
Mama.
Mandy.
Thanks, Desiree. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.